He didn't break me all at once. He did it slowly, with coldness in bed, pauses in conversation, a gaze that slid past me as if I no longer existed. Once, I was a woman who believed everything could be saved with words. I asked, I waited, I justified his exhaustion, his silence, his detachment. I convinced myself that love simply changes its shape. And then I learned about her. A waitress from the cafe near his workplace. Young, smiling, with no past in her eyes. Not more beautiful than me, just lighter. She didn't know our nights, our shared plans, my fears. She lost nothing. What killed me most wasn't the betrayal itself. It was how ordinary his lies were. How calmly he kissed me after someone else's hands. How he used my silence as if it were permission. I didn't throw a tantrum. I didn't cry out loud. I simply stopped explaining my pain. And I began to think. My betrayal was not an impulse. It had nothing to do with passion or desire. It was calculation. I chose a man who asked no unnecessary questions. I let him touch me, but I didn't let him inside. My body was present, my heart was not. Every meeting was an act of control. I wanted him, my husband, to feel the same emptiness he had left in me. Not pain, not jealousy, emptiness. When the truth came out, he looked at me the way I once looked at him. Confused, broken. He asked why, searched for meaning, tried to bring something back with words. I listened in silence. You taught me this, I said calmly. I just repeated it. He thought my betrayal was revenge. And yes, it was revenge. Carefully planned, cold, conscious. But the real retribution came later. I left. Without scandals, without pleas, without explanations. And only then did I understand. I didn't betray him. I betrayed the woman who once endured cold and called it love. And that was the only betrayal I do not punish myself for. I thought I would feel relief afterward. But at first, there was silence. Deaf, unfriendly, almost hostile. It wrapped around me in the mornings when I woke up alone, and in the evenings when there was no one to ask, "How was your day?" I was getting used to myself all over again. I was surprised by how much anger lived inside me, not toward him, but toward myself. For the years when I allowed coldness to be called a difficult period, for humiliations disguised as jokes, for indifference I accepted as normal, my betrayal served its purpose. It didn't make me happy. It made me honest. I could no longer lie, not to him, not to myself. I couldn't return to a home where I wasn't seen and call it a marriage. I couldn't be convenient anymore. Sometimes I think about that waitress, not with hatred, more with tired understanding. She was only a symptom, not the cause. The cause lived between us long before her smiles and short dresses. I didn't become a better person after all this, but I became more whole. Now, when someone asks if I regret my betrayal, I don't answer right away. You regret weakness. And my betrayal was not weakness, it was a boundary. I didn't reclaim love, but I reclaimed my voice, and the right to leave without explaining why I could no longer live in the cold. Betrayal as revenge is a dirty thing, but sometimes it becomes the last proof that you are still alive, and that it's time to choose yourself even if you first had to break. Time passed, not the kind that heals, the kind that exposes. Without him beside me, I began to notice small things, how the morning air felt cleaner, how silence no longer pressed but created space. For the first time, I didn't wait for a message that would never come. I didn't explain someone else's silence as their character. Sometimes waves would hit me, not sadness, memories. I caught myself wanting to return not to him, but to an illusion, to the version of myself who still believed love was patience. But now I knew the difference. Patience is a choice. Back then, I was simply afraid to leave. I often asked myself, could I have left without betrayal? Maybe. But then, I wasn't ready to admit I was being destroyed slowly. My revenge became proof for myself that the line had been crossed, that there was no way back. I don't look for excuses. I just don't decorate the truth. Now, when someone touches me, I hear myself. I know where it hurts and where it's empty. I don't confuse indifference with calm or coldness with strength. I don't ask to be needed, I choose where to stay. My story is not about betrayal. It's about the moment a woman stops being background noise in her own life. I'm not proud of what I did, But I'm no longer ashamed that I survived. And if one day someone asks whether my betrayal was revenge, I will tell the truth. It was a door. Rough, abrupt, imperfect, but the only one through which I could step back to myself. Now I know, endings are never loud. They come quietly when you no longer want to prove, explain, or retrieve anything. I don't hate him. Hatred is still a bond. I simply no longer carry his coldness, his choice, his betrayal inside me. They stayed where they belong in a past that has lost its power. My story didn't end when I betrayed him, and it didn't end when I left. It ended the moment I stopped justifying what was destroying me. I no longer measure myself by someone else's actions. I don't prove my worth through pain. I don't call survival love. Betrayal as revenge is not a victory. It's an extreme point. The place where the old me ends and a woman begins who no longer agrees to live in the cold. And if there is one meaning in this story, it is this: never prove your dignity to someone who has already chosen against you. I closed that door, without a key, without hope of returning, and for the first time without fear.